If Biden got in, you'd be paying $7, $8, $9. Then they say, get rid of your car.
Imagine that they produced zero emissions.
Be the first state to officially recommend against the COVID-19 vaccines for healthy children.
Oh, we got a lot coming up today. Trump apparently predicted the gas price surge, which is not surprising. Kamala Harris is imagining things that don't exist. And remember COVID? That was a whole thing a little while ago. Sorry, we're a little bit late today. Technical difficulties, but we're here now. Thanks so much for tuning in to Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
1.
Here we go.
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. Today it is March 8th, to the year of our Lord 2022. New you in 22. New you hasn't started yet. Should probably get on that. It's already March. Sorry again, we're a little bit late. Had some technical difficulties. We're actually 12 stories down here in the dingy bunker, so internet access is sometimes a little bit finicky. But thanks so much for tuning in. We got an interesting one for you today. Start right off the top with gas prices, because gas prices are what they are, and they're not going down anytime soon, says literally everyone. If you've been following this is not new information. This is a continuing event that is going to continue happening constantly over the next couple weeks, probably months, maybe even years. Gas prices going through the roof. I want to see if we should talk. I want to play this Trump clip first. There was a Trump clip from a rally that's been making the rounds where I believe at the time President Trump was roundly mocked for making this statement, and then turned out to be absolutely true. Watch this, then we'll discuss on the other side.
We have more oil than anybody, okay? And it's an incredible thing that it's happened over the last few years, a lot of great things, and you're paying, what, $2 a gallon for your gasoline? That's okay. You know what that's like? That's like a tax cut. That's bigger than a tax cut. If Biden got in, you'd be paying $7, $8, $9. Then they say, get rid of your car.
So, $7, maybe $8. Who actually knows? It was interesting last night. So, no, not last night. The night before last night, I came home. I live in Southern California, behind enemy lines here in California. But I got home at about 2 a.m. Sunday from a late flight. Drove by the gas station, and it was $5 flat. The gas station locally close to my house. $5 flat. When we left for the trip, it was, I believe, $4.12. This is one of the cheaper gas stations in the area. In 6 days, it had gone up. No, $4.12 isn't right. It's about $4.39. 60 cents this thing went up in the 6 days that we were gone. 6 days, 10 cents a day. Then what was interesting about that is yesterday, we're driving up the same street, my wife and I, less than 24 hours from when we saw it at $5, it was $5.23. This morning, went to the gas station, took a look, $5.43, 40 cents, 2 days. Interesting. What are gas prices like where you live? I know I ask this question constantly, but I'm curious to see what there are around the country, because I know there's a lot of you that listen from a bunch of different other places. Let's see. So this is interesting. So gas prices are where they are. Joe Biden yesterday said that now the U.S. is going to ban Russian imports for gas. This is from the AP. Biden had explained his reluctance to impose energy sanctions at the onset of the conflict 2 weeks ago, saying that he was trying to limit the pain Americans would feel at the gas pump. I understand that. Whether or not I agree with it is entirely a different point, but I understand what President Biden is trying to say there. Gas prices have been rising for 2 weeks due to the conflict and the anticipation of potential sanctions on the Russian energy sector. But today, the Biden administration announced that no longer will the United States accept foreign gas from Russia, which is going to be interesting. It's going to feel worse at the pump if you don't already know. Wow, we're getting some of these coming in. Kim says $4.99 in Central Illinois. Holy cow. That's in the Midwest. That is huge. $4 in Wisconsin. $4.19 in Orlando. Holy cow, Amy. $6.97 in Glendale, California. That's almost $7, which is exactly what President Trump predicted a little over 2 years ago. But they're only going to get worse because the Biden administration, as we're reading now from the Associated Press, just implemented sanctions that would disallow Russian companies to sell, Russia's like China, right? Russia is entirely state-run companies, or it's a kleptocracy, right? Dealing with Russian companies is dealing with the Russian government. And the United States will now no longer accept gas from those Russian oil companies. Before the invasion, Russian oil and gas made up more than a third of government revenues for Russia. Holy cow, 33% of their revenue came from gas and other energy. Global energy prices have surged after the invasion and continued to rise despite coordinated release of strategic reserves, making Russia export more lucrative. So this is interesting too. Remember a couple months ago when gas prices were going up way before this. Obviously, this is not new information. Gas prices were already at multi-year highs before Putin decided to invade Ukraine. Now that we're not accepting gas from Russia, and also the entire world is in what the heck do we do mode in terms of energy importation, gas was already going up. Remember a couple months ago when Jen Psaki or somebody at the White House, it wasn't Jen Psaki, it was like the energy secretary, said, we're releasing 300 million barrels of oil. And then somebody from like NBC News said, okay, that'll last us about 3 days, 2 days. What do we do after that? So it is interesting, the AP pointing out that saying that countries are coordinatingly releasing strategic reserves. There's also, I read a headline that there are now American delegates in Venezuela that are attempting to get gas from there, crude oil from Venezuela, and send it up because of the Russian sanctions. But that remains to be seen how that is going to affect actual gas prices. Wow. Holy cow, I just saw a comment I want to get on. Dave says over $7 a gallon in Canada. That's crazy. La Habra, $5.59. Yeah. Gas prices are through the roof, and I'm imagining they are wherever you live, not only in the United States, but around the world. I know this is a global show. People watch from around the globe. Speaking of gas and speaking of cars and speaking of transportation, the vice president, one Miss Kamala Harris, there was this like big green energy climate change summit thing that everybody was at. Kamala was there. Pete Buttigieg was there. The renewable energy secretary dude was there. And Kamala Harris gave a speech, and it is funny. It is fanciful. It is full of nonsense. It denies reality. This particular clip that we're going to play you right here is Kamala might as well have quoted the John Lennon song Imagine, which is a song for children who don't understand how the world works. But listen to this clip from Kamala Harris, and we will discuss on the other side. Actually, if you haven't already, I see a couple thousand of you watching on all of the various platforms. We have like 5 different Facebook pages we stream to, YouTube, Twitter. We're not on Getter yet, but we should do that fairly soon. But check this out. This is the Kamala Harris. Oh, that's what I was going to say. There's a couple thousand of you watching. Click the little share button over here. It really, really helps us out. I really, really appreciate you doing that. It helps us continue to do what we're doing, the more people watching. But watch this clip from Vice President Kamala Harris.
Imagine a future. The freight trucks that deliver bread and milk to our grocery store shelves, and the buses that take children to school and parents to work. Imagine all the heavy-duty vehicles that keep our supply lines strong and allow our economy to grow. Imagine that they produced zero emissions.
That is, again, Vice President Kamala Harris. Imagine all of the things. Imagine, if you can, if I could fly. Imagine, if you will, if I could levitate above the ground and fly around the world. Imagine if Susan from accounting didn't always hit reply all on the company emails. Imagine if the maid of honor didn't always start their speech with, "For those of you who don't know me." This is something a child would say. Would it be great to have completely green, completely clean energy? Abso-freaking-lutely. But that is far from the reality anytime soon. So I don't understand why the vice president continues to push fanciful ideas as if they are a possible reality. What really irritates me is people who hear this sort of stuff and people who see Kamala Harris say this sort of stuff, and Kamala Harris herself. What annoys me is her saying it as if we could just flip a switch and all of this would be over. No, this is not real yet. What you're saying, and again, I hope it is real someday, but it isn't. It is not a current decision that we have to make. If there was a switch that we could just flip and everything was clean and green and renewable and all of those sorts of things, awesome. I'm all for it. But none of that technology exists yet. So stop acting like it does and there's some sort of block that the government needs to take down in order to flip the switch and make America entirely green. Because it's not real, is the problem. Again, this is the sort of thing a child would say who doesn't understand reality. Such is life. I wrote down a couple things that I thought were, yeah. Anyways, that's Kamala Harris saying that again. Let me play the last part of that clip.
Heavy-duty vehicles that keep our supply lines strong and allow our economy to grow. Imagine that they produced zero emissions.
Imagine if everyone were happy all the time and nothing bad ever happened to anyone. The thing that I really love about when Kamala Harris says these sort of things, it's as if in her own head she's like dropping like a truth bomb, like, yeah, got him with that one. Feel the depth of my conversation speech. Just laying it on them right there. Yeah. The head bob is what really gets me, Vice President Harris. Let me see. Oh, I want to get to this. So this is actually kind of interesting. So we all remember COVID, right? The Chinese bat fever, the CCP bat fever that ruined the entire world for like 2 years. Funny how that kind of just went away. The news kind of just stopped talking about it. Where is Dr. Fauci? Is he in a hole? Is he safe? We don't know. We don't know where Dr. Fauci is anymore. Has anybody seen him in the last month? But the entire news switched to Ukraine, which understandably so. But remember, COVID is still out there. And I know a lot of you are probably going to hit me in the comments saying, no, it's not. It's gone. Yeah, no, I agree with you to the extent of, hey, we should just ignore it at this point. But there's some interesting developing stories around the world regarding COVID that I thought were interesting. Remember Hong Kong? Back in the darkest of COVID days, a year and a half ago, Hong Kong was lauded as a zero COVID policy success story. It is no longer. Remember everybody saying, look at Hong Kong, look at places like Australia and New Zealand and to some extent Canada. Look at how great they are. Their authoritarian dictatorship has prevailed. But Hong Kong, once lauded as a zero COVID policy success story, is now battling a deadly outbreak reminiscent of the early days of the pandemic, despite having more than 2 years to prepare. Looks like everybody gets their time in the barrel. With locally transmitted cases surging past 312,000 in the city of 7.5 million, in just the last 2 weeks, hospitals are and embattled healthcare workers have stretched beyond the breaking point. The numbers are likely far higher due to suspicion of people not reporting their positive test for fear of being separated from their families and put into government isolated facilities. So a couple things to remember. Hong Kong is now China. It is now mainland China. The Chinese government has effectively taken over Hong Kong. There were people screaming about this a couple of years ago. Nobody did anything about it, which is unfortunate. But basically, they had this big whole thing of no COVID whatsoever. And they would take people out of their homes and away from their families and isolate them. Turns out that didn't work. Turns out, as we saw in the Johns Hopkins report that came out a couple weeks ago, lockdowns did actually do pretty much nothing. 0.02% of COVID transmission is what lockdowns stopped. So there's that. Although the rampant surge is driven by the less deadly Omicron variant, Hong Kong's deaths are also rising, particularly in the unvaccinated elderly in the city. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Again, I know that the majority of us are like, yeah, I haven't been dealing with the whole COVID situation for a while now, so this is seemingly irrelevant. But I just wanted to hammer the point home of, yeah, turns out a lot of us were right all along in that you can't stop it. You're going to get it. You might as well do everything you can to protect yourself, whether that means getting vaccinated, whether that means dropping a couple pounds, whatever it is that means to you, maybe prepare for it because you're going to get it. Again, it turns out the lockdowns didn't really help anything or do anything. There's a couple more interesting stuff around COVID revolving shots for 5 to 11-year-olds. This is from the LA Times. So how effective are COVID-19 vaccinations for children ages 5 to 11? This is again from the LA Times, a liberal-leaning news outlet. There are emerging data that suggests that protection against infection wanes for vaccinated children in this age group. You don't say! But that shouldn't be a surprise. Some experts, and this is where it gets really freaking funny, some experts say vaccination series without a booster shot generally have been less effective in protecting against infection from the Omicron variant of the coronavirus than earlier strains, and children at this age aren't eligible for boosters. That's it, according to the LA Times. It's not the fact that children, thank God, aren't affected by this at all, and I feel like I sound like a broken record saying that because I've said this for months. Since we started this show, like 6 months ago, I've been saying, thank God kids aren't nearly as affected as adults by this. But that's the reason. If a child gets COVID and ends up being totally fine, because statistically speaking, they're going to be totally fine, the reason is because they didn't get the booster and they're not eligible for it yet. Which brings us into this. This is from Florida. A lot of people out there, fans of Ron DeSantis, fans of how he's running the free state of Florida. This is from a roundtable with DeSantis and a couple other people, including the Surgeon General of Florida. Check this out. This is what's happening down there.
Before I wrap it up, I think Dr. Freeman, you actually provided the introduction to our announcement, which is the Florida Department of Health is going to be the first state to officially recommend against the COVID-19 vaccines for healthy children.
So there's that. That's Florida. Dr. Joseph Ladapo announced that Florida Department of Health is going to be the first state to officially recommend against the COVID-19 vaccine for healthy children. The reason for this guidance, DeSantis and Ladapo said, is having to do with lingering questions about the vaccine's potential health risks for young people. In rare cases, mRNA vaccines have been linked to myocarditis and inflammation of the heart muscle among young men and teenage boys. As long as we're being fair, neither the Surgeon General or the governor offered any details as to what qualifies as a healthy child, nor was the specific age group referenced in what they were saying. So there's that. It's interesting going out of Florida. You've got some people that can't wait to get their kids the 9th booster of the shot. And then you've got other parents who look at the statistics and go, yeah, my super healthy 9-year-old doesn't need this shot because fortunately it doesn't affect him or her or whatever it is that child is currently choosing to identify as. I'm trying to figure out if we should get into some of the more. So yesterday I teased a Wisconsin story about some election stuff. Turns out that was kind of a dud. Had we talked about it yesterday, it would have been relevant. News came out on Monday that makes it no longer relevant. So there's that. We're not going to get into that. Regarding COVID, I don't know how much I want to talk about my trip. Was off on Thursday, Friday. My wife and I were in Hawaii on a little vacation. And by vacation, I mean business expense tax deductible trip to a property. But it was really, really interesting. Maybe I'll talk about this in depth on Friday, kind of the lighter-hearted side of the day. But Hawaii is just as crazy as most places were in April of 2020. Masks everywhere, checking your totally real and not fake at all COVID tests when you got into restaurants. It is crazy there. When you got off the plane, you had to sit in this big, long line. I don't know if any of you've been to Hawaii recently, but they're on the whole zero COVID track or trying to. And it has devastated businesses there. It has devastated the communities there, and people are still continuing to comply. It's really interesting. When I'm forced to wear a mask, because I got to travel a lot on planes constantly, I've got this like little mesh mask that will literally stop nothing. Like I could hock a loogie and it would go through that mask. That's how nothing this would stop. That's the mask I wear on planes now because I want to, if I'm forced to. And in order to eat in any restaurant on the island of Hawaii, especially in the bigger populated areas, that's the mask I put on. So when somebody asked, hey, are you going to put on, do you have a mask? I said, yes, I can put on my totally fake mesh mask that won't stop anything if that'll really appease you. And unfortunately, a lot of the workers there would be like, yeah, well, the governor and the government are going to crack down and close our businesses again today. So in all of that, and again, maybe I'll talk about this a little bit more on Friday, the experience in the super lockdowny, COVID crazy, the branch COVIDian state of Hawaii. A ton of things have been affected. A ton of things are still affected, and really doesn't have anything to do with the actual disease. It has to do with the government's overreaction to the disease. So there's that. There's one other thing I wanted to get on here today, but I'm not entirely sure we've got all the time for it. Tomorrow, we're going to keep you updated on more of the Ukraine stuff that's happening throughout Ukraine. I know a lot of people are paying attention to that story, but also a lot of people are tired of hearing it's not the only thing that's going on within the country. So we'll bring you up to date on things that are happening as they continue to happen. But that being said, we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Actually, hopefully a little bit earlier than we were on today because we had, again, technical difficulties. But we'll see you tomorrow. Anything that happens throughout tomorrow, we'll bring it to you. If you haven't already, give me a follow on all your social media platforms. I am hilarious, by the way. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you're missing out. You can just type in Jobob to any of your social media platforms. You can find me pretty easily. I'm finally on the Truth Social app. So there's that, just at Jobob on Truth Social. I think I have 1 follower so far. So if you're on Truth Social, if you've made it through the queue or the line and you've got an account on the new social media platform, just type in at Jobob. I promise to also be hilarious on that platform as well. That's going to do it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.